the beginning of my sentences always get cut off because there is a lag. So I purposely waited this time to see if I could jump right in with you guys. But what is going on, everybody? We'll give it some time for some people to come in, but just wanted to do another live stream. Just see if people want to do some Q&A. Got some fun and interesting news to share tonight, which is why this live stream is late. I'm going to make a full video on it, but our Tegu girl officially laid her eggs. One of them did. So, what's up, Janelle? I'm going to go show off these beautiful pearly whites real quick, and I don't mean teeth. Collecting your gecko. Nice. So check it out. We got some Tegu eggs today. 40 beautiful eggs. I'm going to do a video on collecting them, setting them up. You can see this dummy tub incubator right here is trying to read the output of, this room's temperature. They just need 86 to 90 degrees and you're good. So that is why this live stream is late. I originally planned to jump on at 7 o'clock, but guess what? I got home at 6:45 or 6:30 and I noticed that our Tegu girl did not come out all day today, from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And she was plump. I mean, she was big. You'll get to see her in the video. She got all sucked out and all skinny and narrow towards the waist. That's how I most likely knew to look for eggs. So I looked in there and sure enough, we counted them out, 40 beautiful eggs. So pretty cool. Whitney and I, she's going off to dance class. So I'm going to do a live stream for an hour. Just hang out with you guys, answer any questions. Oh, cool. So yeah, electric emerine should basically be a tangerine emerine. So emerine is just a fancy word for green. Yeah, nice. Nice, 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 Janelle. It's always beautiful to set a gecko up or any animal up in a full-size tub. I'm definitely all for that. So we'll show off some more babies here. Since Jay paid for that last time. Oh, we're going to get to a black knight soon. Actually, let's just start with the black knight baby. So this was a black knight baby that's growing up. Just so you guys can see, in all honesty, you can see the changes that the black knights go through. This baby was pitch black as a baby. So when you buy black knight babies, they might be pitch black. And then as they grow into juvenile, you'll start to see any part of their pattern that might not carry full on black. Now this girl is still kind of young to tell. My guess is that she's going to darken back up a little bit, but until she's full grown, I won't be able to guarantee, what exactly she's going to look like growing up. But that's why you just want to be careful, buying black knights. And a lot of people just get enamored by that word, black knight. What a wonderful word. Like, this gecko must be all that is cracked up to be. But some people, call things black knights that are 50% mixes or just low quality, so just make sure you're getting what you pay for. But oh, nice. Okay, so yeah, electric, so is yellow, not tangerine. Yeah, I had heard of the electric line before. I could have sworn that there is a electric tangerine based line, and that's probably what I was thinking about. And I could be wrong about that. But yeah, there could be electric yellow, electric tangerine. It could just be electric yellow, and I could, just be thinking of things because there's so many different names that people come up with for essentially what is a yellow gecko or an orange gecko. It's just meant to display the brightness of a gecko. Like our bold stripes here, they're really, really yellow. So the way I describe them is bright, bright yellow, just so that everyone's clear. But some people might come up with a name for that brightness of yellow and, call it like electric or something like that. Do you know any good reptile breeders that have blizzards? Blizzards. Try suburban gecko, try geckos, etc. Try gecko boa, try gecko diction, try geckopia, try the urban gecko. So rewind this and play through that list of names, but those are a few names that just stick out to me at the top of my head. You might want to check in with Gary Orner of Orner Exotics because, to my knowledge, I think he has a het-free line of Blizzard or a het-free line of Murphy's Patternless. So if you're looking for an animal that you know does not carry any other genes in it, like albino and whatnot, you could go to specialist breeders that might have that kind of stuff, you know? Yeah, breeders are really good to get from. You're probably going to get the best price, number one, and your customer service is going to be great because you're dealing with someone who knows that animal. For example, I can tell you this little baby did not grow for the first 3 months of its life because it was in a larger tub and it didn't eat. I noticed 3 months later that, hey, this gecko is eating at a very, very slow pace. And then one day I just noticed that this gecko's tail was super, super skinny. And I was like, wait, this gecko's not eating at all. So I put it in a smaller tub, changed a couple of things, and this gecko is plumping up nice and large. But that's an example of how a breeder is going to know about their collection. So when you buy from a breeder, you're buying into their customer service, you're buying into their customer guarantee for a healthy animal, all that kind of stuff, you know? There's a Blizzard in same shop as the Gecko. Another place you could go is Morph Market. I love Morph Market, guys. When I'm looking for reptiles, I will scan Morph Market like left and right. So if you don't know what Morph Market is, or if you don't know about Morph Market, we have a couple videos on it. Check through our video history or send me a private message and I can send you the link to the Morph Market videos that we have. But you'll definitely want to get familiar with Morph Market. It's a great place to buy and sell reptiles. Expos are great. Just make sure you do your research on who you're buying from at the expo. For example, there could be bad breeders at the expo. I put that in quotes because, you know, who am I to say someone's a bad breeder? But there could be bad breeders at the expo that their animals might not be up to health par standards. You would think that the expo would only allow people with healthy animals in, but there's no way that they can control that volume of people that's coming in. So unfortunately, there will be breeders at expos that might have mites, or the animals might have respiratory issues. So it's just something for you to be aware of heading into the show. Do your research on what vendors are going to be at that show and how good each vendor is. Other than that, expos are great. Got a nice little tang here. You gotta love these tangs, guys. So my Filipino business partner and I were thinking of calling our specific tangerine line the calamansi line because there's a fruit in the Philippines that I believe it resembles a orange greenish color or something like that. That's why we were thinking about it. But because a lot of our tangerines have emerine or green hues to them, we want to kind of name, you know, that specific project and line, since I've been working on it now for 3 years to really enhance bright orange coloration along with bright green coloration, you know? So we might do that. We might not. We'll see what happens and what name sticks. Maybe we'll go with like a superhero series name, or my favorite movie series of all time is the Alien series. So maybe I'll go with different alien names or something like that. So ever since I got my Leo tank upgrade, she's been way more active and cuddly. That's wonderful. What more do you want, you know? How many generations will you breed? So you can inbreed for 10 generations in a row, like no kidding. That's how the Black Knight got created. That being said, some bloodlines are going to be stronger than others. For example, maybe this bloodline I can breed for 10 generations in a row. Father to daughter, daughter to grandfather, etc., cousin, you know, brother to sister, etc., for 10 years in a row. There's been plenty of breeders that have started off their collections that way, and it's never been a issue or a problem. But you might come across a certain gecko a time or two. Oh my gosh, this little one is making a getaway here. I got to get him fast. Little quick one. All right, we got her, guys. We got her. We're going to put her away. But some bloodlines might be weaker than other bloodlines, and maybe, 7 or 8 generations in, you start to notice short faces, you start to notice short bodies. Those are beginning signs, at least, what I think or what I can tell are beginning signs of inbreeding defects taking place in the gecko's DNA. So here's the reason why inbreeding is bad in human beings is inside of your DNA, believe it or not, are a lot of defects, okay? When you breed to somebody not related to you, your defects are different than their defects. So maybe the defects don't align. But let's say you were to breed with a family member or a direct descendant, like a sibling, your defects in your DNA are much more closely aligned on the chromosomes from your dad and your mom, since they're, it's your sibling. You're inheriting the same chromosomes as they are, essentially, different variations, but there's higher chances of these defects going on. Within the reptile, that's within the mammal world. Within the reptile world, those overlapping defects are not as bad as in the mammal or the human world. So you can breed leopard gecko parents to children for 10 years in a row, and you should be okay. But with every should be okay, you still want to do your due diligence to observe the babies. If you start to get a lot of infertile eggs, if you start to get a lot of short faces, runty geckos, defects are starting to pop out, then you might want to consider outcrossing some fresh DNA into that bloodline at that point. Okay, so my female became very skinny after she laid her eggs, and her tail is the same size, if not smaller than the base of her tail. That's a great question. I'm currently going through this right now with a couple of my girls. Let me show you. This poor thing, guys, this poor thing. Now, I'm not super worried yet, but you could see her spine. You see that? You could see how skinny her tail is. She has been laying eggs, and not even good eggs. The eggs have not even been good. So it doesn't matter whether the eggs are good or not. Breeding a leopard gecko takes a toll on the leopard gecko's body. You can literally see a fat tail go to skinny or skinnier in 1 week. And then if they have a normal sized tail, you could see it go to concerningly skinny. Now, is this gecko concerningly skinny to me, where you could see its backbone, etc.? Its tail is really thin. It is concerning, but am I super worried? No. I'm doing everything I can to give this gecko what it needs. So every single week, it gets offered the same thing that all my other geckos have. A mealworm dish with calcium and vitamins in it. And because this one's a little skinny, what you'll want to try to do is try to fatten them up with sweets or treats, such as silkworms, phoenix worms, black soldier fly larvae, dubia roaches, super worms, all of those different type of insects. If they'll eat it, that will help them. Now, this little baby right here is not eating superworms and not eating dubia roaches. So I'm just making sure that I give this little one mealworms twice a week with vitamins and calcium. And I know it looks bad, and I say poor baby and all that, and I am concerned, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, these animals are, this is what they live for, right? In the wild, if a gecko was this skinny in the wild, it doesn't have an option to do anything except eat the bugs that are provided for it. So if you're providing the animal bugs and it's not eating them, you have 2 options. Option number 1, you could force feed that animal with a syringe and crushed up food and vitamins. I prefer not to take the force-fed method until it's a last resort. This animal is not at last resort level yet. So what I do 2 times a week, I just make sure this animal has fresh mealworms, fresh calcium, also fresh water, very important. And, you know, if this animal were to get worse, I could consider force feeding. But at this level where the animal's at right now, I would not force feed this gecko. I just don't think it's necessary at this stage in, you know, my leopard gecko breeding and husbandry and keeping life, you know. Now, here's another one that's really skinny. Let me show you. All right, this one's actually gaining some weight back. Check this out. Expensive project right here, guys, right? If anyone should be concerned, I should be concerned about this. Look how dark that gecko is. This gecko is an adult female. As dark as she is, she could easily be worth $3,000 to $4,000. You might think to yourself, "Oh man, if she's getting skinny, yeah, let's force feed that gecko because that's an expensive gecko." But I noticed the tail of this gecko was getting concerningly skinny. So you know what I did? Same thing I did with that last girl. Change out the food 2 times a week, fresh vitamins, fresh water, fresh calcium with D3, and this gecko is bouncing back. Tail is beginning to get a little bit thicker, and guess where I just caught her right now? I caught her in her food dish. So, with a little bit extra attention and extra care, you can just make sure the geckos are getting some food. I tried to feed her dubia roaches. I tried to feed her superworms. She wouldn't eat it. So I just kept consistent with her mealworms. And she is bouncing back just after a couple days of being concerningly skinny. When I saw her at the beginning of this week, I was like, I need to get some food in that girl. And another thing was she was thirsty, right? Because it was time for me to change the water of my leopard geckos. I changed their water about 1 or 2 times a week. And this last week, I was so busy, I only did it once. And so she was waiting for fresh water for that second time during the week. When I put that water into her, she went right for it. So water is very important, guys. I would say, especially for breeding females, you want fresh water 2 times a week because they might not drink stale water. Keep that in mind. Fresh water 2 times a week and fresh food with calcium with D3 2 times a week. What's up, the thumb? Yeah, Black Knight line is super cool. Yeah, so I'm going to leave this girl alone after this, but this is our blackest girl that we got. You could see her back is just dead black. Like, you don't even see any pattern. Barely. I mean, you see that little stripe, but like nothing, you know? Most Black Knights, when you look at Black Knights in photographs online, the photographs tend to mask the pattern that you actually see in person. So when I say she doesn't have pattern, I really mean she doesn't have pattern. But I'll show you some Black Knights right now that when I take a photo of them, they look like they're all black. But in person, you can still see a little bit of pattern. It's kind of a camera trick that, you know, I guess you could say Black Knight breeders use to kind of promote their project, right? Like, look at this animal, it looks great. But then you look at it in person and it actually has a pattern to it. But I am not against pattern. Pattern looks cool, and I'll show you why. Now, this male is usually darker. He's a little bit lighter right now. It's weird with Black Knights. They kind of fire up and down a little bit. Like, depending on the temperature or the time of day, they could be a little dark, a little brighter. But to me, it's still a beautiful, dark, melanistic gecko, even when it has some pattern in it. To me, that's cool. I do breed ball pythons. We're working on the puzzle project right now. Yeah, send me a picture. I can let you know what the morph is. But this is our male toothless. He is a beautiful boy. He is. Lick. Love that characteristic trait of leopard geckos. Look, he'll crawl right on you guys if you let him. Say down, Toothless, down. No, just kidding. But yeah, blip. So Toothless is the male Black Knight that we are breeding to like as many things as we can this year. We do have some fertile eggs from him, but unfortunately, we've I don't know, when he breeds with girls, like he just doesn't get it accomplished. But we do have some fertile eggs from him. So I might not be thinking he's getting it accomplished, but as long as that sperm gets into that girl's body one way or another, it's going to fertilize some eggs. And so even though to me, it doesn't look like he's doing the greatest job, he must be doing somewhat of a good job because the girls that we are pairing him with are beginning to lay eggs. And so time will tell how fertile those eggs are, but yeah, but if that continues, Janelle, that is when I would start to worry if she is losing consistently. Yeah, there definitely is a point where you want to start to worry and force feeding will be needed. One of our Doomerals boas that was born with a couple birth defects has not put on any size or any weight and is getting smaller and smaller, is now like 2 to 3 weeks old. If that animal does not eat on its own this week, I'm going to begin the force feeding process with that boa. And so the force feeding process with snakes, I would say is probably a little bit more difficult because with lizards, you could just kind of hold them, grab a syringe, and just kind of, you know, poke at their jaws a little bit. They'll open their mouth, and then you could shoot the supplementation and the food in there. But with snakes, you got to get them to open their mouth. You got to get them to bite the prey. You got to get their throat muscle. You got to get the prey deep enough to where their throat muscles grab the food and bring it backwards. Oh, guys, this is one of the coolest things ever. And we'll put her back because she's like shedding. But when a Black Knight is in shed, look at that gray tone that they just have. It's really, really cool. So she is ready to pop out of that skin, though. Cool, cool, cool. I do have a raptor tangerine. I'll show you. Now, it's hard to get raptor tangerines very, very orange because raptors have the eclipse gene in it, and the eclipse gene washes out the orange color. But you could see that this gecko carries a fair amount of orange color, and when you look at its eyes are eclipse red. So check it, check it, check it. There it is. So its eyes are eclipse red. This happens with eclipse where sometimes not the full eye will be dilated all that one color, you know? Let's see if we could get her to turn the other way and show the other eye, which the other eye is a full red color. There you go. You can kind of see it right there. Especially when you put a little bit of light into it, you can definitely see the red. But when there's no light shining on it, it kind of looks a little bit black there. You can kind of see the red color right there. But ideally, what we're doing with this project is we want to get orange geckos with red eyes. As orange as we could get it with red eyes. So that's the line breeding goal and project of this gecko. Oh, yeah, he dropped his tail, huh? Yeah, that's a little bit more rare for leopard geckos to drop their tails. But it can definitely happen. Yeah, sometimes the tails come back kind of nubby and funky looking, like mushrooms or something, but What's up, Xylent? Yeah, keep a close eye on weight. Try fatty type of worms if you can. Black soldier fly larva would be fantastic if you could get your hands on that. Phoenix worms, silkworms are also small and very fatty. Dubia roaches are fatty, but they're quick. So if the gecko is a little bit underfed and undernourished, it might not have the most energy to chase down and kill a dubia roach. So that's why phoenix worms and black soldier fly larvae and silkworms might be your better bet. But even silkworms are a little bit big, and you don't want the animal, the gecko, to be intimidated by its food. So I would suggest silkworms or phoenix worms or black soldier fly larvae. Or just stick with the mealworms and monitor that gecko and make sure it eats a little bit, at least a little bit every week. If it's eating at least a little bit every week, I would not be concerned. I would only be concerned if it's not eating at all and getting any nutrients in it. Then you would want to try to change the food to like silkworms or phoenix worm, sorry, or black soldier fly larva to see if it can get it. See you later, fum. Fum. Yeah, increasing humidity helps dented eggs. Denting early on in incubation is often a sign that the substrate is too dry. Humidity 1. The other has a permanent dent that doesn't resolve, but embryo is developing. Have you heard what happens? If the embryo is developing, you should be okay. Just make sure your humidity levels are up to par. It sounds like maybe it's still kind of dry. I don't know why one would pop up and the other one wouldn't. I've never noticed that in my collection. I've never noticed one egg stay dented if the humidity is right. Not to say that that can't happen. There's so many different variations of what can happen in this hobby. I just haven't seen that in my egg incubation. As that embryo grows 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks later, it should definitely be a full egg from what I've noticed in my collection. Yeah, Raven, you could also feel free to send me some pictures on social media and I can try to look at the gecko and just see if I, how concerned you might want to be. I could be. How he's built. It really depends on the gecko, Raven. Yeah, that's why I want to see pictures to see your definition of skinny and my definition of skinny. You know, it might be two different definitions, so that's why I want to see it. But some geckos are built leaner, you know. So I've never officially diagnosed crypto in any of my leopard geckos, but I had a leopard gecko that was withering away and would not eat. And anything that it ate, none of the nutrients stuck. So I took it to the vet. I paid like $200 to go to the vet. No, sorry, it was like $60 to go to the vet. And then the vet told me, okay, for us to run the tests that we need to, it's going to be another $300 to run these tests. And we don't even know if the tests are going to give us the answer that we need, whether your gecko has crypto or not. You know, they said it's a little hard to tell. $300 will get us a poop or fecal exam. And then if we need to draw blood, it's going to be like another $600 to draw blood. So now we're at like $1,000, and it's still not a guarantee that even if this gecko has crypto, because it's untreatable, I just spent $1,000 to not treat a gecko. You see what I'm saying? And so I started talking to them about, well, what is the price to euthanize the gecko? And so I already paid $200. I already paid $60 for this visit. And then they're like, okay, to euthanize the gecko is going to be like $280. And I'm like, okay, so I brought my gecko here. It's $1,000 to see if there's the potential that it has crypto. And if it does have crypto, then there's nothing we could do about it. And number two, if I do want to humanely put my gecko down, you're going to charge me $300, well, 200 whatever dollars plus the charge of the visit. So over $300 just to put my gecko down. Started researching humane ways to put animals down. The most humane way is to put them to sleep with carbon dioxide. This is the way that snake breeders kill rats. They build a giant box and they pump carbon dioxide into that box. So what I did for my gecko was I grabbed some dry ice from the store. You pour water on dry ice, and it's kind of the home remedy to make carbon dioxide. And so I sealed it in an airtight container, or as airtight as I could get at that time. And the gecko, usually mammals like little mice, they will pass out and die within 2 minutes of being exposed to a container full of carbon dioxide. The gecko that I had lasted 15 minutes before it stopped moving, you know? And again, it's thought that this is the most painless way to do it because the animals are literally just breathing in carbon dioxide, which is, you know, smellable gases, and they just go to sleep. Their heart rate slows, they go to sleep, and they die. That's the way that mice and rodents are killed humanely in the snake industry. Problem is, reptiles are designed to thrive with very, very low levels of oxygen. There's some reptiles that can hold their breath underwater for minutes, or I don't really know the legitimacy of this, but I was reading an article the other day about the sailfin dragons. It said sailfin dragons could hold their breath underwater for 1 hour. Think about that for a second. 1 hour, this animal is holding its breath underwater. So 15 minutes go by, the gecko falls asleep, and I'm like, you know, saying my prayers and wishing it off, and I'm sad because I wanted to save this gecko if I could. But I want to make sure that this gecko does not come back to life. So I have a plan to crush the skull. Take it over to a rock, crush it with a heavy, heavy rock, and in one instant, the skull will be crushed. The animal will be deceased if it wasn't already passed away. So I take it over to the rock, which is not only 60 seconds away. After 15 minutes of inhaling carbon dioxide, the gecko finally went to sleep. After 1 minute, it begins to move and wake up. So, unfortunately, I killed it right away before it could, you know, start to move around and really sense what was going on. But that was my experience with what I thought was possibly crypto in a gecko. I don't know if it was crypto. Crypto was thought to be untreatable in geckos. The best you could do is sustain life until they naturally die, because crypto is a parasite that's just going to continue to eat away at that gecko until it dies. Up to this point, I haven't seen any information released that crypto is treatable. So unfortunately, the gecko that I had was at the point where it was on its on its dying breath already. That's why I had to look for a humane way to put it down. So now crypto is super contagious. So what I did with that gecko's cage, first of all, that gecko was kept in a separate cage. I washed my hands every time I touched that gecko and then another gecko. I kept it away from the other geckos. And when that gecko passed away, I threw its whole cage away. Its little tub and all that, I threw it all away. Because I don't even know if bleach kills crypto 100%. Ron Tremper came up with a way to kill crypto, and I forget what combo he had, but it's not kill it in the animal, it's just kill it on the, you know, the glass and stuff. So yes, crypto is very bad. I would definitely suggest safe is better than sorry. If you had a gecko die from crypto, just bleach everything that you had it in, or just straight up throw it away. Gecko Oasis. And yeah, so the reason I share stories like that is because I know that you guys are just like me. I don't have $1,000 just to pluck out of a tree just to test a gecko and not even heal it. You know what I mean? Like, not even come up with a solution, right? I'm just gambling to see if this is going to work for $1,000. Here you go. I can't do that, especially with hundreds of geckos. So I have to use the best resources available to me, the best home remedies, and the best knowledge that I've gained and experience that I've gained personally to treat every single issue. Because this was crypto, I knew that, and the gecko was on his dying breath, I knew that humane euthanization was the only way. I have a couple other geckos here that are special needs geckos. They came out a little bit runty, or actually, it's just one now. I just have one gecko that's a little runty. Let me show you her. And I think she's runty from, again, tangerine lines, especially some of the most beautiful kind are very, very inbred. So you can see this gecko is 2 years old, but she is the size of a 2-month-old, literally. Like, I have literally some 2 to 3 month old geckos that are as big as she is. So she came with beautiful orange color and red stripes down her back. And then I touched her tub, and just in case, it's really not parasites or anything like that, but I'm a super, super OCD and worrisome person. So just in case it's anything physical or tangible that can be passed on, I always rinse my hands real quick. But check out this gecko. This is our most orange gecko that we have. But this one is a little bit runty. And you might say, why is it a little bit runty? Well, why are the best color tangerines sometimes a little bit runty? It's because as you inbreed leopard geckos, this goes back to the earlier conversation, as you inbreed leopard geckos, any defects that exist in that leopard gecko's DNA will be mixed with the defects of its siblings, and the defects will stack and align and enhance each other. So my theory on why you're getting runts out of the Black Knight project and out of the Tangerine project, my theory is defects in the DNA, stunting defects that are going on to create shorter faces and smaller bodies. Okay? So not every hatchling is that way. For example, out of the last 3 years of inbreeding, I've only had 2 babies that are a little runty. Two out of 3 years, and 50 to 60 to 70 tangerine babies, I've only had 2 that were runty. So don't get me wrong, it's not that huge. I might be pointing the gecko and saying, yeah, they could produce runts. Yes, they can produce runts, but it doesn't mean every gecko is going to be a runt. 2 out of 70, okay? So just keep that in mind. I don't want to discourage you or dissuade you from inbreeding, because inbreeding and line breeding is the #1 way to get the qualities and traits that you're looking for in geckos. Yeah, same thing with me, Jaden. When I got my crypto gecko, I don't even know if it was crypto, but when I got my crypto gecko, I got it from a person that really just, he admitted to me, he's like, this was my girlfriend, she moved, I haven't really been taking care of them, and when I got them, they were in banged up shape. One was an enigma, and the other one was this beautiful albino. They were both very skinny. The enigma wound up dying on its own because it couldn't eat and self-sustain life because it had very, very bad neurological disorder. And this other one was not enigma, as far as I could tell. It's not enigma. Maybe it was, but from the pattern and stuff, it didn't look enigma to me. And that's why I thought maybe crypto, because most other parasites do not affect the geckos that badly, but crypto does. And it is heartbreaking, yeah. Did you ever find out how that one hatchling... I never found out, Raven, how that one hatchling ripped itself in half, but now I burn every single lid just in case the lid contributed to that hatchling ripping itself. But whenever I cut my lids in the past, I would always run my finger around the lid. None of them were ever, what I thought sharp enough to cut a gecko. And none of my geckos besides that one has ever cut themselves on it. But better safe than sorry. Now I take a lighter to every single lid, no matter what, and I just make sure that that surface is smooth. But what I really think happened with that gecko, I just think it tore itself open. I think it was biting at its skin and it tore itself open as it was shedding. But its siblings are doing good. Let me show you its siblings. If you remember, I was actually really sad about that one because it came from one of our best tangerine, actually our best female tangerine and our best male tangerine, and I was incubating all of those eggs to be males so that we can enhance the quality of our male tangerines here. So these two babies though are the siblings to that baby. Let's show this one first because she just jumped on my hand. But look at that beauty. Look at that. And this one is doing really, really well. Beautiful red eyes, right? So we have an eclipse here. This is officially an tangerine eclipse. Temperature sexed to be male. And we will find out if that temperature sex determination holds. Wow, I just jumped. Last year I had 3 of my temperature sex determined males turn into females. And I think that was out of like, how many males? That might have been like 15 or 20 males that we were incubating for last year. And what I want to test is, I think I caught a problem that was going on with my incubator. I was never putting the probe inside of the egg container. Now I have dummy containers that I actually put the probe inside of so that I can raise the temperature higher and higher until the inside of the egg tub where the eggs are is the right temperature that I need it. I wasn't doing that before, and I was just relying on the thermometer sitting on top of the egg container, which is okay, but then I started to temp gun the egg containers as soon as I opened them, and they were all like a degree or 2 lower than what the outside temperature was. So now I'm incubating all males and females with dummy containers that I can move around and test the fluctuations of the incubator and how they go. Ideally, you want an incubator to be as stable as possible so that if you set it to 80 degrees, you want from top to bottom to be 80 degrees. And the way that you accomplish that is with fans blowing from the top down. What was I going to say? You know what? Just because I'm super excited, I'm going to show you guys the Tegu eggs again. Super excited, guys. If you missed it, that's why this live stream was late tonight, because we got 40 beautiful Tegu eggs. And so you can see the temperature here is actually getting 88 degrees. I'd like to keep it ideally around 87 to 88 tops. So this little room heater that I have right here, I will probably wind up adjusting it a little bit more. But yeah, all in all, I mean, the temperature holds really well in this room. This is our ball python room. So you can see all the ball pythons that are here. Boas. We got boas in there. Ball pythons. Empty rack, but ready for more ball pythons. Let's see. We got a couple ball pythons that are supposed to be breeding. Let's see if these guys are breeding here. The male's tail is in the water, but not around the female, which is where you want it to be. So I'll have to make a decision if I want to. I really like the temperature in this room for these guys, but because I'm incubating these eggs in this room, I'm going to need to drop the temperature to whatever degree I want these eggs to be sitting at. So Tegu eggs can be 86 to 86 to 90 degrees. So 88 to 89 is not that big of a deal. But it just depends on what temperature you really want to incubate them at, you know. And this is my first year, you know, breeding and incubating Tegu eggs, so cool beans. All right, let me see where we're at with the questions. Leopard gecko cannibalism. Was that baby to baby or adult to adult? That's really interesting. I've never seen that. Kill another, both females, and it ate the dead one's tail. Yeah, I will see sometimes babies will, you know, eat the other tail of the other one, or it looks like they did. That must be how it happened. Most babies get along perfectly fine, right? But there's that one couple or that one pair out of every, you know, whatever, a few dozen that wind up having problems. So when it comes next year to selling geckos, we're going to come up with a different system to where every single baby gecko will have its own little smaller tub. So it will be even smaller, excuse me, than this. Because right now this is good for 2 babies for every container. And it's not such a big deal right now if a baby loses a tail tip or something, because we're just holding all these back for breeding. And I only have 1 baby this year that lost a tail tip out of like 70 right now, right? But next year, that could be one that I want to sell to somebody, you know, in good condition without the tail missing. So I'm going to try to come up with a system where maybe I can actually split, and that's what I might do. I might split these 6-quart containers in half with like an extra piece of plastic, or just get kind of creative, right? Because ultimately space is an issue, right? And you can't give one single gecko this huge space, because then it just doesn't efficiently maximize the amount of geckos that you're going to be producing. So if we have 1,000 geckos next year, I mean, that's what we're gearing towards. Look at this. This rack, 2 geckos in each tub, holds 180 geckos. But 1 gecko in each tub only holds 80 geckos. If we have 1,000 geckos next year, how many of these racks would we need? We would need like 10 of these racks if we wanted to house 1 baby per every single house. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use these same containers, which are great. See, you have 2 babies growing up in here. They get along just fine. I'm going to use these same containers, but I'm going to cut it in half widthwise or cut it in half lengthwise, and 1 baby will have one side and the other baby will have the other side until we wind up selling the baby, you know, because by then, all of these babies were growing up. But by then, next year, as soon as the baby outgrows that little area, you're already selling it anyway, so. Man, that's crazy. Geckos killing each other. No, so I am not going to get it. Let me tell you what it was. BSR is Ben Siegel Reptiles. He is an OG in the game that imports reptiles in Florida, and then he runs auctions for some of the most rarest and coolest reptiles. Most of those auctions are actually full-priced auctions. Like, by the time the bidding is done, you're paying just as much for that animal as you would if you got it from a private breeder, or more. But what's really good about Ben's auctions is you always have the chance to pay less, you know, to win it at a less bid. And then he has some animals that are rare and that you don't come across so much. So you guys know that we carry sailfins here. We had 2 sailfin dragons. Now we have 1 because I was a dum-dum and I left them both outside one night when it was a little too chilly, and unfortunately I lost one, and I just really kicked myself about it because I think I had a pair. I think I had a male and a female. Now, sailfin dragons come in one of like 7 different species. The most common species that we see imported is called the Hydrosaurus weberi. How cool is that name? Hydrosaurus weberi. It's the one that I have here. It's the most colorful of the sailfin dragons, but it's the smallest and it has the most attitude of the sailfin dragons. My dream sailfin dragon is the giant black Indonesian sailfin dragon. He has two, well, he has one for sale right now that's being bidded on, and then another one that he's gonna put up for bid as well once the first one sells. I was messaging him. I was asking him, hey, can I buy a male and a female from you? He said, I'm only selling these two females. I was asking some people in Indonesia and doing a little bit of research. These specific sailfin dragons, they don't reach sexual maturity until 6 or 7 years. So I might pay $1,000 to $2,000 right now for an animal that might not live, number one, and number two is going to take 7 years to grow up. So I'm changing my game plan. The rabbit is out of the hat. The cat is out of the bag. If you guys want it, go for it. It's the giant sailfin dragon on BSR auctions. He has one female available right now. The bid is currently sitting around $400 for that one female. And then he has another female he's going to put up. Now, my hope is that I can get my own importation license one day or become buddy-buddy and friends with somebody who is an importer and work hand in hand with them to get the animals that I'm looking for. So I'm going to try both of those methods so that I can get sent in adult sailfin dragons. And I was already talking to a couple Indonesian breeders. They have adult sailfin dragons. It's just a matter of whether we can import them here in the United States. You're cool, Jacob. Yeah, Runty Halloween mask. Here's another theory that I have on the Halloween mask, Jay. And I have to talk to more big leopard gecko breeders about this. But if you look at, let me show you real quick. So this is a Macularis afghanicus, which is a subspecies of the Macularis macularis. All of these geckos can interbreed. My theory is that the Halloween masks, the bold stripe, and the bold leopard geckos in general all came from the Afghanicus line or had some Afghanicus blood inside of them. If that theory is true, that could also explain the small size that often happens with bold stripes, or can happen with bold stripes or bold spotting, whatever, because the Afghanicus leopard gecko, full grown, is not as big as the Macularis macularis leopard gecko. But you can see it throws those wonky head patterns and those very bold and bright contrast. And you could perfectly interbreed them with macularis. So my theory is that the Halloween line and a few of the other bold lines, they had influence from the Afghanicus, which is why I got them, because I want to interbreed. Like, I like what this gecko has to offer. Look at this beautiful gecko, right? If you have any bold line, this gecko can enhance it. You know what I mean? So I'm also trying to breed Black Knight into this line because look how dark and contrasted the natural pattern of this gecko is. So add the Black Knight's darkness in there, and I think you got something special. Your egg-bound female finally passed her egg. Congratulations. I know I have two females right now that I'm just hoping and praying they pass because they've been gut bloated for so long now. I'll show you the incubator we use. So we use a combination. We use a combination of the Reptibator. And so take a look at what I meant. There's a dummy tub in here. See this one that I'm shining the light on right now? This is a dummy tub. It's set up just like this tub, but it's reading the temperature from the inside. So the temperature on the outside is actually set to 95 degrees, and it's 93 right now, and that red light means it's heating. It's heating to 95 degrees. When I set it to 95 degrees, guess what the temperature is inside of the egg box? It's only 88 on one thermometer and 89 on the other thermometer, which is perfect because in here, guys, I think we have our first black knight male that's being incubated for a male from the darkest black knight that we have. The one I showed earlier in this video, her name is Void. She's just pitch black. We want males to come from her because we want the best males to get as dark and as black as they can. So that's incubator number 1. It's called the REPTILES. Incubator, that would be my number 1 pick for a beginner. My number 2 pick is the HOVA baiter. As you can see here, this is the HOVA baiter. You can see it's just called a HOVA baiter. You could get them from Craigslist. You could get them from farm stores, even Amazon. They're about $50, and they're used to incubate chicken eggs. The reason I don't like this as much is because it's a little bit more old-fashioned. It's only a turn dial. So you see, you turn one way, it increases the temperature. You turn the other way, it decreases the temperature. You still have to have thermometers at the bottom of this thing to read what the actual temperature is in there. And then you just turn the gauges up and down until you hit your desired temperature. Now, as you grow and you start to have dozens and hundreds of eggs, you'll need to get custom incubators. This is a wine cooler that I bought off of Craigslist for $50. It's a $2,000 unit that is not cooling anymore, so it's useless as a wine cooler. But we flipped it and turned it into an egg incubator. You can hear the fans going right now. We use the original fans. The fans circulate air in here from the top to the bottom, so that at the very bottom, it's reading 80 degrees, and at the very top, it's reading 80 degrees. Here's the dummy tub right here, which is reading 80 degrees inside. So a consistent 80 degrees across this whole thing. In the back, we have a heat source. The heat source is reptile cable that was strung up and down along the back, and then we put the plastic pieces in play just so it looks nice. But if you have a refrigerator or something, you don't need to cover it. So we have a heat source in the back, and then we hooked up this thermostat to it. Now you can't see the thermostat. It's actually built into the back of this unit. But the thermostat is just this cheap thermostat that you could buy from Amazon for $40. The Jumpstart or the Inkbird. We actually use the Inkbird Wi-Fi thermostat with this one, which means I can control the temperature from my phone, which I'm filming on right now, so I can't show you. But I can go into the Inkbird app and I can hit up or down on the temperature, and it will turn the temperature up and down in that incubator. Okay? So the basic essentials to an incubator is simple. You need an airtight container or close to airtight. You need a heat source. You need a fan to circulate the air in there so that the heat doesn't all rise to the top. That's why I would recommend just getting 1 or 2 fans at the top of your incubator, like computer fans, and having it blow the air down. And then you also need a thermostat to control the heat source. And then you need thermometers just to double check and back up the thermostat. So there's lots of videos on YouTube how to build these as well. 8 years old. She has always had bulges, but she bred to 2 different males before, and I've seen her lay eggs. This year she was showing mating behavior towards her ovulating. cage mate. And when I tried to breed her to a male, the male attacked her. I actually heard some weird stories about leopard geckos that actually have both gender parts, you know, like the ability to produce eggs but also sperm at the same time. It's kind of crazy. I read an article about how testosterone fluctuations in females have been proven to switch the sex, but I thought it was strange. Yeah, I mean, there are some anomalies when working with reptiles. Most of the time with leopard geckos, it's pretty consistent, and that's what's really cool about them. It's pretty easy, but every once in a while, you know, you're going to come into some stuff that is just some stuff. Yeah, hermaphrodite. Yeah, that I saw an article on that recently too from GeekyGeckoCreations. So if you want to know more about hermaphrodite leopard geckos having both male and female parts, check out GeekyGeckoCreations. Go hit her up on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. She said she had one. Would you say it is a good idea to pair leopard geckos? Yes, if you know what you're doing. One's not from the same clutch or whatever the term is. I have a female and would like to get another female to fill. Oh, so you just want to house two geckos together. Let me tell you this, Vince. Most of the time, that is not a problem. Every once in a while, you hear horror stories about males attacking the females or females attacking each other over nesting or laying areas. Most of the time, 90% of the time, you will find geckos cuddled up together, cuddling next to each other, sitting on top of each other. Very, very cutesy stuff. Every 5 to 10% of the time, you'll find geckos that actually kill each other. Well, no, hold on. Every 5 to 9% of the time, you'll find geckos that attack each other. Every 1% of the time, you'll find geckos that kill each other. So it's up to you if you want to take that risk. As a breeder who's keeping, you know, hundreds of geckos here, it's more efficient that I just keep everybody separate. And so that's what I do. But I know that there are plenty of setups where people keep their geckos together. If you keep your geckos together, make sure you have a big space, number one. Make sure you have multiple hiding places that are humid, number two, and you should be okay. Yep, that was it, Gecko Oasis. You were correct. I was trying to get that sailfin. I was being a little investigator. I was asking, plus, you know, the cheap sailfin dragons are only like $100. These expensive ones are like $500. So this one is being advertised as an expensive one. When I messaged Ben, he said, hey, it did not come in with the scientific name, so I don't officially know the scientific name, but it comes on good word that it is the one that I was looking for. So I showed the picture to a whole bunch of professional sailfin people. The majority of them concluded that it most likely was the rare sailfin that I was looking for. But I started thinking about it. I was like, I'm about to pay $1,000 to $2,000 right now for two females, number one, and number two, I need to find a male for them. And number three, it's going to take 7 years to raise these animals. You know what? By the time 7 years goes by, hopefully I've put enough word out there to where I can actually buy people's adults, right? So if any of you guys know someone who is selling an adult sailfin dragon, any species, I don't care what species, any adult sailfin dragon, let me know or give them my info because I'm very interested. And as I get word out there like that, I'm sure I will find somebody that I can buy adult or subadult or even juvenile sailfin dragons from as time goes on. Or I could get my own importation license and work with importers to get what I want. Yeah, definitely don't keep males together. I've never done it, but again, I've just heard so many times bad things about it, so I don't know where the proof is. I haven't seen any videos of it, but supposedly males will really, really hurt each other if they're kept together. Again, that's probably not in every case, right? But Yeah, if you don't know how to use the Hovabator, it's pretty simple, Raven. You need a thermometer like this. You can buy these off of Amazon. You could get, it's just called a digital aquarium thermometer. You get them in like 5-packs, or you get them in like 4-packs for like $5. It's really, really good pricing. You will put those where the eggs are, or in a dummy set up egg container. You will put that in the Hovabator. You will turn the heat up on the Hovabator until that thermometer hits the temperature you're looking for, and then you don't touch it. Don't touch the Hovabator. Don't turn the Hovabator. Be very careful when you're moving the Hovabator, because if you turn that dial a little bit, it's going to heat more or heat less. As far as I can know, dented eggs can hatch and still be healthy. I've never experienced dented eggs. I've had a lot of people recently messaging me about dented eggs, and I don't know why their eggs would be dented. It could be calcium issue. It could be humidity issue. Those are the two main reasons. So again, make sure your humidity levels are on point in your egg incubation boxes. A 1-to-1 ratio of vermiculite to water. If you don't know what that is, it's when you take a container and you tear it on the scale so that the container winds up weighing 0. And then you scoop 30 grams of vermiculite into that egg container. If you use the big containers that I use, like these, 30 grams is perfect. And then you put it back on the scale. Whatever it reads, if it's 30, 32, if it's 40, you spray water in there until it is double. So if you have 30 grams of substrate in there, make sure the egg container is tared, which means that the egg container itself is not being weighed, only the substrate is being weighed. Then you will just spray the same amount of water weight in there, shake it up, and that's a 1-to-1 ratio. So my experience with thermometer guns, they fluctuate just as much as those actual little digital thermometers. So I recommend getting 2 digital thermometers, making a dummy egg container, a mock-up egg container, putting those thermometers in that egg container, like I showed earlier in this video with the male incubator, Reptibator, and make sure that both of those thermometer probes read the same temperature. If they do, you have a higher likelihood that the temperature is close to what you're looking for. Because for one thermometer to be off, okay, that's a certain chance. For 2 thermometers to be off, that's an even lower chance. So, but yeah, I would not rely completely upon the temp guns. I have used the temp gun so many times and it's been wrong, so don't rely on the temp gun. I actually prefer digital probes over temp guns when I'm looking for accuracy inside of an incubator. Thank you, Jay Harris. I do have a video on how to incubate leopard gecko eggs. It's an older video, but it's about 40 minutes of, I'm biased, but it's pretty good quality stuff. I go through a lot of detail of how to use a Reptibator, how to use a Hovabator for 40 minutes. You can watch that and learn a lot, And yeah, just to chime in with what Gecko Oasis is saying, usually dented eggs is lack of humidity. So I keep getting this question a lot. My eggs are dented. I raise the humidity. They're still dented. Now, without knowing how you set up the humidity in that cage, my question to you would be, is the humidity still low? And what you can do is take a sprayer and spray the edges of the substrate. Don't spray the eggs themselves. Just spray the plastic walls and the edges of the egg container that the eggs are in. Don't hit the eggs, and that will put in extra moisture. A little bit of extra moisture is not going to hurt you. Trust me, I do it all the time. I will spray extra water on the walls if I feel like I want to just get a little bit extra humidity in that egg container. Yeah, and a cousin of the leopard geckos or the Coleonyx geckos, they literally live in colonies. I mean, I have these Coleonyx geckos here set up in colonies of 10. You can see that little one. I'll find them in the wild. I will find them together, you know, because I'm native to Arizona, so I find them outside sometimes. When it's raining or whatever, I'll lift up tarps, and there will be Coleonyx geckos hanging out together. You know, they're not like leopard gecko. I mean, they're a cousin of leopard gecko, and leopard geckos do appear to like to hang out together, but I think they get a little bit more moody than Coleonyx geckos, because Coleonyx geckos tend to be very cuddly with each other. Doesn't predator reptiles and mesa have, they might have sailfin dragons, but I was speaking earlier about the different species of sailfin dragons. The sailfin dragons that most pet stores have in America are the cheaper and the smaller sailfin dragons. But on BSR auctions right now, Ben Siegel Reptile Auctions on the computer, right now he has 2 sailfin dragons that he is selling as the most rare ones that never come into America, like barely ever. At least from what he's saying. I need to do a little bit more research about what importers I can work with to get those imported as adults. Because I know that I've been talking with the Indonesian breeders in Indonesia that have the adult sailfins. I just need to talk to American importers that I can work with to get those, you know? What morphs do you think are the most problematic? So the morphs for leopard geckos that are the most problematic right now are Enigma and Lemon Frost. So I'm actually curious to see what kind of outcrossing has been done with the Enigma, but I don't know if Enigma has been outcrossed. I haven't seen any documentation of whether it's been outcrossed into Fasciolatus, Afghanicus, Montanus, and Turkmenicus to see if maybe that DNA of those fresh bloodlines can limit the brain issues and the psychological and the neurological issues that are going on with a lot of Enigmas. So that being said, Enigmas were the first known, I'll put it this way, the first big known problem with leopard geckos. Some people say that like white and yellows have problems. I've never seen one white and yellow that's ever had a problem. And I have a lot of them in my collection here. But Enigmas, I've seen my fair share of Enigmas that have problems. And then all you guys probably know about the Lemon Frost, how the Lemon Frost has a high tendency to tumor production inside of its DNA. So what we are working on here at GeekyGeckoCreations is, again, that outcrossing. Fasciolatus, Turkmenicus, Afghanicus. If we can get that bad DNA out of the actual Lemon Frost genetic, that would be a win. Same thing with the Enigma. If you could separate out enough of those bad genetics from the Enigma gene, that would be a win. I haven't really heard anybody talking about outcrossing for the Enigma, but we are working on outcrossing for the Lemon Frost over here. Yeah, I'm not biased. I'm just stating facts. Thank you. That is a great compliment. In every single one of my videos, I tend to be an over-explainer, right? Like sometimes people will even say, Frank, you're an over-explainer. But when I'm learning, this is just me, it takes me a few go-arounds a lot of times to understand a concept. So when I'm trying to teach a concept that I've learned, As long as I understand that concept fully, I will try to explain it a couple different ways. And so I'm glad that that comes across in my videos as helpful. But nice. Yeah, banana pied male ball python is great. Nice. Jay got some 20 babies going on. I was showing babies earlier, Jay. I don't know if you're in here, but just a couple. Yeah, Jaden, sometimes even if the eggs are molding, I'll leave it in there until its sibling hatches. Once the sibling hatches, if that egg's still moldy and looking really bad, then you could just throw it away. Yeah. Mold can happen from extra humidity. Now, as long as you do a 1-to-1 ratio, you should be fine. And sometimes I even do a little bit above water, water-wise, a 1-to-1 ratio. Personally, I've never noticed any mold growing because of moisture. I've only noticed mold growing on bad eggs. That's just my personal experience. So I think it would take a rot. And here's the reason, because eggs are alive. And so mold tends to grow on stuff that is dead. I'm no scientist or mold expert, but most stuff that is growing mold is decomposing and therefore is not alive. So if your egg is alive, it shouldn't be gathering mold on it. But I've never experienced it happening, but maybe it's happened in other people's collections. I've only experienced mold growing on dead eggs because obviously those eggs are decomposing. So nice, Cryptic Lays. I'm going to have to, thank you for mentioning that. I'm going to have to check it out. I might go down to Predators tomorrow and check out the Sailfin Dragons they got. But again, here was another reason I didn't invest in the Sailfin Dragons. I found out they take 5 to 7 years to grow to full size and sexual maturity. That is a huge commitment. So within the next 5 to 7 years, I think I could get my hands on some adults, or I could start some business relationships with importers, or I could become my own importer, and get a license and all that. So that happens, I'll definitely let you guys know, because I want to import some cool stuff if we wind up going into the import game. Yeah, I always incubate. I'm like, I always incubate. That's cool, Jay. So you're definitely looking at some good numbers there. Ruthless Reptiles, I'll give you a shout out. Jay Netherton, there were some people in here looking for blizzards earlier and some other stuff, so maybe check out Jay's stuff. Ruthless Reptiles. Also, when you go on Morph Market, you can search for, you can see every gecko that a person has for sale, or you can search for just blizzard and find what you're looking for from many different breeders. I have not worked with Red Diamond. I know Suburban Geckos is working with Red Diamond. I talked with my business partner about buying a Red Diamond, and we had the chance to buy a Red Diamond. I think, what was his name? What was his name? Barry is his name, that owns the Red Diamond line, right? Like, he named that line. From Only Tangs is his name. So the way that you get a really good quality tangerine is many years of inbreeding and crossbreeding with other tangerines, and starting, picking up characteristics of orange color that you want to replicate and breeding it to other geckos that have great orange color. So I think personally, we have a decent amount of tangerines here that I'm happy with, and I'm happy to grow this collection homegrown and pick our best tangerines every single year and use it to enhance the current lines that we have. That being said, it doesn't mean that I won't invest in somebody else's tangerine. I was recently looking at the Urban Gecko up in Canada. He has this tangerine line called the Tornado Tangerine. Now, here's a problem with black knights and tangerines and just geckos that you see online. When you see a picture of a gecko, that picture could look twice as good as the gecko looks in person. And so I found some pictures of some geckos I was interested in, and then I looked at some other pictures of the same gecko, but on a different social media platform, and the gecko did not look as good as its profile picture on the for sale page. Now, understandably, everyone wants to post the best picture on their for sale page, but it just made me think that, you know what? I have a lot of really good quality geckos that I'm happy with here, and I'm happy to home grow my own collection here with our unique twist, tangerine twist on the tangerine combinations. Again, our focus of tangerine here is like bright orange with emerine color. So the red diamond, as far as I know, is more of a just deep orange color. And I'm not saying that it is bad, but I have, like, this gecko right here is the same quality orange as like the red diamond line. Like, I was looking at pictures of the red diamond line and then looking at some of the geckos that I have here, and I was like, you know what? I'm producing geckos that are close to as nice as that, or some of them are as nice as that, whether it's in their own way or comparatively, you know, that's subjective. You know, everyone's going to have their own opinion, but I formed the opinion that I was okay with the quality of geckos that we had and continuing to inbreed and enhance those lines in-house before we buy from other people. And remember, if you don't buy a gecko from somebody this year, there's always a chance to get a gecko from them next year that's even better than what they're producing this year. Because think about it. The way that gecko breeding works, every single year, you should have geckos that are better than last year's crop or than last year's, selection. So if I don't buy a gecko from Barry this year or from Suburban this year, because they both have great quality geckos, or even Urban Reptile this year, in theory, I should be able to buy a better quality gecko next year from them. And because leopard geckos grow up so fast, they mature in 6 to 8 months and are breedable. It's not like ball pythons where you need to buy a baby and grow it up for 3 years before it can breed. Leopard geckos, you buy a baby and that sucker is breeding within 6 to 8 months. You know, so very different strategy. All right, guys, I'm kind of scrolling through the questions. Cool. I hit the end of the questions because I think now the time has come. The end is near, and yet I face the final. Oh, I always thought it was final countdown, but then my wife's like, no, it's the final curtain. But speed round, guys, speed round. I'll give 60 to 120 seconds, and then I appreciate your guys' time and understanding. But I will end the live stream here within the next 2 minutes. I'll give you a second to ask a couple last questions, and I will try not to get long-winded in answering. But yeah, so Cryptic Lays in the chat right there, she is Crescent Geckos, Geckos that used to follow us. Really cool art channel and social media channel, so give her a follow. I've been meaning to ask, where would be a good place to buy a scale? So Amazon is perfect. For leopard geckos, you could get a small scale like this. For ball pythons, you want to get a little bit larger scale. So let me show you the scale we have for ball pythons and like tegu eggs and stuff like that. But here is the scale for ball pythons. This holds up to 10 pounds, and I think it was like $20. You know what I mean? So Kube. Just type in, whatever. I don't know what it's called actually. It's like digital kitchen weight scale, and you could find the units that weigh up to 5-pound animals and the units that weigh up to 10-pound animals. The reason I went with 10-pound animals is because some ball pythons will kind of get up in weight. Some female ball pythons can get up to 5+ pounds. You know what I mean? So because of that, I wanted to get a scale that could actually hold that kind of weight. So, but thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I do have to go, but I thank you guys for being here and for all of the questions and for participating. No problem, Cryptic. I love that name too. Nice, Vanilla Pied. Yeah, we're pairing a couple ball pythons right now, hoping for our first clutches. But thank you so much, Jay, Cryptic Lays, Gecko Oasis. I really appreciate you guys. All of the fans and followers that are here. I will see you guys next time. Hopefully with some good news about the Tegu eggs that just hatched. If you didn't hear about them, you could rewind this video. But we got 40 Tegu eggs today from our high white and red female. High white red female. So I love you guys. Thank you very much. Have a geeky gecko great night wherever you are. And I will see you in the next live stream. Peace.